Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Thank you, viewers, for keeping it Dig Talk. My name is Norman Tumhimbise, and I have two advocates in this studio and a senior economist. Every when he wants to bring his numbers, of course, my closest lawyer here brings in a defense and he asks all of us to prove beyond reasonable doubt. But we have another advocate from sometimes Democratic Front. I do not know how far he has gone with his front.
That's the real party now.
Sadly, the last time we had him, he was meant to come here and give us some bit of seedlings of the trees so that all of us can begin shaking the trees. But who knows, maybe some other time he will give us the trees. Honorable Mavike, say hello to our viewers.
No, man, sorry, I'm coming in late. But it is because of unforeseen circumstances. I got on the road. I've been on the road for 1.5 hours, more or less. But I'm happy that I'm here with you. I'm happy to find my friends. The former socialist, now turned capitalist,
still,
and the brother Ocheng, who is true to the ideas of the UPC.
Amen.
I am here to fit in. I don't know how far you're going with with the discussion. But greetings from the DF, greetings from the president of the Democratic Front, and all entire membership. We are doing quite very well. We have just been through a process of nomination of local government candidates. We are gearing up for nomination of parliamentary candidates, and also hoping that we should be able to present a presidential candidate. Because ours is not a belief in a boycott. Because whenever you boycott, you live for their wits, freedom and space to do as they wish and to propagate false narratives to the people of Uganda. So we shall continue engaging actively until that moment when we can be able to overwhelm these pseudo
former socialists
now turned capitalists. You can even see now they are putting on ties like real capitalists.
At least even if it was red, at least
like real capitalists. You know,
it's no longer red ties, but like
they are even turning yellow. Okay, their ties they used to have red, now they have turned completely yellow. Really a big shift over there.
Do you think we should call them former or alleged former socialists, because we're not even sure whether they're socialists?
Those who used to posture as.
Okay. You see, Honorable Awich, rather Honorable Mavike, before you came in, we're trying to have a glimpse of what has transpired the previous week. But of course, this does not make you run away from your responsibility, given your office at DF, to answer to us how different would your participation interfere with what you think they would do in the event that you boycotted? Given your numbers.
No, the option of boycott is out. We have determined that we should remain proactive, we should keep engaging, and we should keep pushing. Because in the end, regimes of this nature collapse at the weight of activism. They do collapse at the weight of activism, and of course sometimes also using some of the external forces. But of course, the national resistance movement, having been around 40 years, does not grow in popularity. It keeps declining. Most of the narratives and figures are false. They are cooked up.
The people you're talking about to decline last week presented 2 or so million signatures, and you haven't even provided one signature. In any case, none of us even knows whether or not you have a presidential candidate.
There have also been somebody has taken pictures of those boxes. I'm told they had pineapples, they had they had mango.
Did you have a Kwanjura?
The way these fellows had actually choreographed it. Now they had mangoes and pineapples, and on top they could lay peppers. So actually, pictures have been coming out.
Of avocados and pineapples.
Avocados, mangoes and pineapples. Very, very strange. But true. Now, 40 years down the road, what are they trying to prove? What is it that you are trying to prove?
That it's a mass party.
No, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. And I think that the people at the Secretariat are doing more harm than good. For the president himself and for their chairman and for the party, because you cannot continue engaging in such childish display.
Scam PR.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you parade to the nation mangoes and pineapples and posture that now these are signatures?
Okay.
It's almost like a despot to remain relevant.
You see, for some reason, our viewers ought to hear your honest response to some of these concerns. I don't want to be a sadist, but the corridors have it that you, as DF, don't seem to have a presidential candidate. And you highlight corridors. In the event that indeed the corridors prove us right, what is your plan?
Participation can be at different levels. Participation can be at presidential level, because this is a general election. The general election has got 3 segments. One is presidential, the other is parliamentary, the other is local government. And the people here seem to be so obsessed, by the way, with the presidential and parliamentary, even leaving local government. But when you go to the UK, where Ochen has been, you'll find a party that is purely local. And has got a full representation, even bigger than the Labour Party or any at the local level. Government. And then other parties are parliamentary, and then also presidential. Now, yes, DF is weighing. That's correct. DF is weighing whether really it is meaningful to participate at the presidential level. You will recall that when our leader, Matthias Mpuga, was leader of opposition, he is the one who sounded the alarm to the entire opposition, and he actually convened a meeting in Munyonyo. He invited entire opposition and focused them towards the need to have electoral reforms. His own party then, Mr. Chagulanyi, you remember the Mr. wrote, he said, this is not important, and this is not actually, this is not appropriate for now. He went ahead to present 8 bills in that parliament. Now, some of these bills were actually were intended to have far-reaching impact. First, register. The nation has 2 registers. We are walking into a general election with 2 register, one manual, the other electronic. When the manual fails, they resort to the electronic. When the electronic fails, they resort to the manual. But you know that in all countries which really have verifiable election, they have 1 register. The electronic register cannot fail. And they say, it is thumb. When you put a thumb and fails, then you resort to the manual. But it should be the thumb and the eyes. Now, when the thumb fails, you should look at the eyes. The eyes cannot fail. But what these Awichs have done of this world is that they have left this hanging. Now, we are walking into an election with 2 registers. Two, we have been at the forefront of saying that the manner of declaration of a presidential election is not good. Because when you go, for instance, states where we have a presidential system as we have, in the states, a presidential election is determined at the state level. Trump has taken South Carolina. Biden has, whoever, Kamala Harris has taken New York. You know, the presidential election result is declared at a manageable jurisdiction. Similarly, when you go now to Kenya, very near home, a presidential election is announced at the county. Odinga has won Narok. And Ruto has won Nairobi. You know? So it is very easy to compute this. But look at the way, the manner our friends announced this election. You know? Here we are, Natinyuguzi. Natinyuguzi won. Museveni 20. So and so 30. So it is very, very difficult to verify a presidential election given the manner in which it is announced. We had said that the smallest unit must at least be a constituency. Level. When Mabike is announced as member of parliament, they should know so and so has won as member of parliament back in the east. And either Bobby Wine, or Besigye, or Museveni, too has won. So we have said that the manner in which we announced this election is not verifiable. You cannot verify, and it's not very easy. So, and you know very well that these results, for instance, you can say Besigye has won Masaka municipality or Nachinyuguzi. By the time you cross Ruera, things have changed. The result has changed. Now, we have also said that it is very extremely critical for us to get the military security agencies out. We must have an election that protects voters. We must have an election which protects candidates. Now, in the manner in which we are, without when you have the military, when you have the security agencies, when the police is relegated, you cannot have a free, fair, and a verifiable election. So we are actually weighing these chances. Is it really useful? Should we focus our energy on this election? And if we sleepwalk into it, in an election where more or less even the results are predetermined, it will be a total waste of resources and time. But we can focus on a level which can be impactful and which can be able to deliver a desirable effect that we need, because right now we need the law. We need to change these laws.
You see, Honorable Mabike, one of the toughest things a media person ever finds, like me, is to have to interview lawyers. They will, tell you lots of good English, and then at the end of it all, for some reason, our viewers become confused. You mentioned that Right Honorable Mabike, Right Honorable Mpuga, of course, I remember that conference in Munyonyo. To many, it was a very wonderful idea to convene people and say, look, we suggest that we have reforms. Unfortunately, not even one reform has been awarded, if I may apply that word. And you come here with your DF, in fact, to begin with you as a parliamentary candidate for Machindia East. You have warmed up, put on the gloves, very ready to battle. In the same process that you accuse of being fraudulent, so who is fooling the other? He who has denied you the reforms, or he who wants to participate in already a predetermined, as you call it, and fraudulent process? Because the same EC you accuse of manipulating the presidency is the same EC organizing a local government for which you are willing to, to participate in, and so is the parliamentary. So who is fooling them?
Now, I have said that the general election has got three stages: presidential, parliamentary, and local government. These stages can be distinguished. They are distinguishable. You can really distinguish the manner in which a presidential election is arranged, whether it is even manageable in the circumstances. You can even distinguish this from parliamentary, and a parliamentary election is quite easier to manage. And you know that for sure the NRM has never wanted most of these fellows who pass. I can show you, I can relate to you the election of the recently held by-election of Kawempe North. You know the manner in which the NRM came out, deploy, but ultimately NUP was able to overcome. Why? It is easier to manage a parliamentary election in the circumstances than manage a presidential election. For the NRM, the presidential election is more or less a do or die. It is more or less a do or die. And they leave nothing to chance. The guns come out blazing, the security agencies come out in full gear, police is relegated, and everybody is all out for a kill. Actually, to them, the presidential election, they have this nanny of Northcote, the slogan of Northcote. We either win
or they lose.
Or they lose. That's how they come out. But in an election here, it's either you lose or you win. But for them, it is a win-win. So there's no, they don't compromise on that.
Before I cross to...
But in a way, I think what Comrade Mabike is saying is that Ugandans ought to know that until Mr. Museveni turns another decade in age, the office of the president is preserved. Sort of the no-go area as long as Museveni is there.
It's a ring-fenced.
Just a ring-fenced, meaning that just like in their own internal thing, Museveni you don't touch, Chigongo you don't touch, you can do all the other things.
You can touch the rest.
Okay, this is the, for now, in a minute. Do you mean to suggest that if you are not sure of the independence now and the efficiency of the Electoral Commission, you may consider putting all the efforts onto local government and parliamentary and then plan for the presidency years later?
That option is still open, and we are also engaging the rest of the partners and the rest of the forces for change on whether we can be able to rally behind one single candidate. Yes, we have a presidential candidate, but if we can convince the rest that ours is the best, then yes, we shall participate. But if we discuss with the rest and they say, well, we have a better candidate than a DF candidate, then we shall back.
Okay.
Because our principle now is to be able to present a formidable front that can be able to make some effect. Because short of that, you cannot even be able to make any impact at the next election, because then the result will be clear. You present 9 candidates as the last election was, it will be an effort in West.
Okay. Our viewers, we are with Honorable Awich Pollar, Honorable Mike Mabike. He's coming back to represent much in the East, and we have Mr. Joseph Ochieno, who, by God's grace, once he gets a ruling that is in his favor, he is likely to be the UPC candidate. And he put it on record that in the event that there is no such a ruling, for instance, he will not dare come he won't, as an independent, I mean.
No, the word dare is...
Okay. Are you likely to come as an independent?
No, I will not, but to say he will not dare stand.
Okay.
No,
he will not. What are your plans? Parliamentary in the event?
No.
Yes, he will not stand.
He will not stand.
I will not stand, but if you add
what
dare
about,
to give
what
it...
about, okay, what about Parliament?
I think the focus on president of the party, and I really hope I'm confirmed onto that. But I think it's an important point coming from Comrade Mabike about possibilities for their own political organization. And I think it's also an important conversation to be had by the Democratic opposition of a possibility of fielding a single presidential candidate. That's an important debate to have, regardless of whichever way it goes.
The entire opposition?
Yeah, and I think it's an important conversation. But also, it's important that there's a conversation that takes place with or without a single presidential candidate. That the Democratic opposition has lost out in my absence from the debate, that by now political opposition ought to have coalesced around important key issues much closer than they've done in the recent past. And in fact, I've hardly seen, partly because I have some telephone calls have not reached me for whatever reason. I do not think the political opposition is doing enough to coalesce around national issues. I think people are too focused on their narrow-mindedness, narrow individual interests. In any case, part of my view is that actually that beyond that, we should reach a stage in which political organizations, including the governing political organizations that sometimes are full of impunity and arrogance, that when it comes to critical national issues, we should be having a position in which citizens of this country see all of us political leaders, having a conversation and raising issues for which it's Uganda first.
And the bad news for both of you as opposition is that you have no time. That is what that's been
it's a critical one. It's a critical one, and
we
hope
the
therefore
bad news
in a way, yes, it's a critical one.
10 days
in terms of these elections, one.
Yeah, sure.
But I think, with or without these elections, if we we've been around, if we are interested in this country, particularly fantastic people like your camera individuals, regardless of the outcomes of these elections, we should be having, in principle, a way in which we learn lessons and look towards the past. But I must say this in my little space. Comrade Bika, before you came in, Comrade Awich was boasting that exporting low wage workers is now a global trend, so it's a cool thing. I just want to say this, that actually export of labor should be about skilling, one. Number two, actually determination of how good nation states are doing should be by how many citizens are unwilling to leave their nation states. And so for Uganda, for us to be rushing around because we want to go and clean Yemen and want to go and clean in the Middle East, I think political leaders should not be chest thumping. In my exile, the first hostel I stayed in London, I met YMC hostel. I met a Malaysian guy who had come to do his master's degree, and we had a close conversation. We lost contact. This guy couldn't believe the experience I'd had under NRM in the previous 18 months. And he was telling me he couldn't wait to finish his final papers to return to Malaysia and to return to a job. I think that is the beauty of chest thumping. I have also been around, including, actually, we talk about Britain, including the Labour Party, for which I have contributed a little bit to some of these policy conversations. When it comes to migrant workers, when it comes to quality of jobs created, we've let NRA get away with too much, to the extent that actually people can create companies that export people into slave labor, and we still think the government is doing well, when we're not asking the government, or this regime in this case, how many jobs they've created, but also how many skilled jobs they've created, and how many of our skilled labor abroad we've reattracted home. And for Ugandans, Comrade Awich, and you are an external mouthpiece for this regime of yours, I'm sure, how many Ugandans abroad are prepared to return home for less than a quarter of what they're earning elsewhere, if they were to get those jobs here at home. One, get related jobs or quality jobs. Number two, get guarantee for security, the kind of conversation we're going to have. Three, make sure that there's guaranteed health care. Number four, make sure there's a possibility for their children to go to an average Buganda Road primary school and excel. Things as basic as that, and or perhaps to make sure that, to travel from Machinde to center of Kampala, you don't have to be stuck by 2 hours like our brother here was this evening.
Honorable Awich just thumps themselves for, of course, so many vehicles, so much development. So a reason for which, a reason for which we have such traffic. So that's kudos to.
But that's also lack of forward planning, first of all.
Yeah.
Because if states that are doing well really project that in 5-4 years we should have this kind of traffic.
Yeah.
So we should be able to have this kind of roads. Now, we have lost years of planning. Two, can I just say something on export labor?
It
is very sad and actually a contradiction that the NRM is talking about exporting unskilled labor, at the same time talking about industrialization. Now, countries like China, which are very serious about industrialization, did otherwise. What they did actually was to attract big companies.
Fantastic stuff.
To come and do the manufacturing in China, so that now they benefit from low cost of production, because the labor in China is cheap. Now you cannot chase some that you are exporting skilled labor that comes back with actually nothing. These guys are actually encouraging human slavery and human trafficking. I don't know why we have not been sanctioned for human trafficking.
Okay.
And there is no way any serious person can come. Any serious a person who has a global, who thinks globally, can come and say, you know, we are exporting unskilled labor. Actually, what you should be doing is to attract big industries, big factories, big manufacturers to come here and benefit from low wages, from low paid skilled labor.
Okay. Unfortunately, Honorable Awich has to respond to two opposition diehards, yeah, and leftists. You are a leftist?
Yeah, yes, I am.
And he's a typical leftist, like you said.
Actually, I'm a social democrat.
So, yeah. So Honorable Awich has to respond to both of you. And of course, as you respond to both of them, I want you also to summarily, in our remaining minutes for the three of you people, to discuss on the how has this government guaranteed, because all that we have discussed goes back to the freedoms of the citizens as enshrined in our constitution. That's why we needed this foundation to enable us now summarily answer our topical discussion over the how has the government guaranteed freedoms and safety of citizens as enshrined in the constitution. This is brought to the three of you in line to what is happening apparently, because it's on record that the lawyers to Sam Mogumia, for instance, petitioned the court, and we all know certain news. The government for which Honorable Awich serves, broadly in black and white, said they do not know his whereabouts. They don't have him, and this put us back onto a certain video back in the day where the president was, after you had come from the bush, the president said that it was just unheard of. How can citizens ask that? Where are these citizens? And the government cannot even answer the whereabouts of the people. Honorable Awich, how would you dare say you don't know where Mogomia is and so many others? How have you guaranteed our freedoms as citizens? But proceed with that question summarily, but also in response to what they have submitted, sir.
Then I should start with the response. And you know, I'm responding because...
the other is very difficult. These are easier.
No, I'm starting with response because I earlier on, think in this forum, mentioned that we're discussing somewhere, and because I was responding, somebody said they shouldn't debate what others had said.
I know where you're going, Comrade.
So I said, look, first of all, the Uganda Communications Commissions in their guidelines want a balanced view on this kind of discussion. And the idea of having a balanced view is because when Honorable Mabika said this, Awich should respond. Two, the guy I was talking to was even a lawyer. And I was saying, counsel, you know that paragraphs of an affidavit not rebutted is conceding. Three, I told him, you expect me to come here and you're talking of things including calling for a regime change. And you expect me, which when I come to talk, I talk about Arsenal and Man U, the fish in the lake, and the animals in the park, and I leave what you have said. Then what have I come to do? You're saying, leave me, let me talk about regime change. But please, Mr. Which, when you get the microphone, talk about Man U and Arsenal, and the fish in the lake, and no way. That is why the Uganda Communications Commission insists that we have a joint discussion to balance the views. And therefore, I feel responding is important. First of all, also we should know that when we talk here, it's really not about politicking. I feel that the viewers should learn the roots and the grounding of concepts, and they benefit. You know, there are students who are watching. For example, I heard you people talk about culture. It was in respect to talking about border, that some people ride in some areas because it is a culture, and you stop at that. I just want to say, culture is not a superstructure in hanging. There is a materiality to all cultures. For example, I remember culture, first of all, by definition, is the norms accepted in a society. and practice over a period of time. I remember when I entered Makerere Law School in 95. There were culture in Makerere, and it was culture of poverty. Have you ever heard culture of poverty?
What?
Culture of poverty was in Makerere. It was a culture, meaning it was unacceptable norms. For example, you'd hear in faculty of law that so-and-so likes his red shirt. And indeed, when you see in any part of Makerere, the red shirt belongs to Professor so-and-so is working. And you would things like, Professor so-and-so likes black tea. And indeed, he takes black tea with Coke. You'd even hear Professor so-and-so likes his rugabire, the shoes, made of a car tire. This was the culture. Was it hanging? No. The remunerations of professors in Makerere was so bad. Remember, private students were just starting. Government was not paying. When this money was, when the welfare of professors improved, that culture died.
The culture of poverty.
Culture died. Now you can't say there's a professor with one red shirt in Makerere. Let me give a simpler one. In the north, we harvest food. We don't have food like matoke, which is throughout in the garden. Now, around June, July, there's a culture of famine. And how does it manifest? You'd see somebody can sit a discussion like now. Opio, if they slaughter you that cock, can you finish? Then Opio said, I can. Opio, you can't. With soup and ugali. Yes. Now, they keep discussing that to nurse the hunger. But when harvest comes, that culture will disappear.
That discussion goes
in other words, I'm saying a culture is based on a materiality. When you let viewers listen, don't say hanging. For example, the culture of motorbike or bicycle riding in the north is because the terrain there is flat. The terrain is flat. And because of the terrain, it is easier than a woman riding a bicycle in Kabale, which it is hilly. So I'm saying this, that when we discuss, we must have discussion with rooting, because students and others are basic, than discussing on a periphery. I just thought you should do that. Now, we talked of election results. And,
especially presidential. And
yeah, especially presidential. Honorable Mabike was saying,
has issues with you.
You declare here, you declare here. It depends on if you so wish. But what happens is, in some jurisdiction, and I think a congressman stands to correct me, that declaration is because you are not using majority vote. For example, if UPC chooses to say, if Comrade Joseph is standing with Akena, and in Ibanda, Joseph gets 200 votes, Akena gets 190. It is taken as what? The vote is taken by the other one. Now, that would mean even a highly populated area is counted as one vote. And yet here we are saying you can win in Ibanda, but somebody who has, say, Nupas won in Wakiso, count it as such, it will balance the other one. But in this case, Wakiso would be counted as what?
No, let's
one vote.
Come back to Kenya.
Now, so
come back to Kenya.
If they so wish that is the position, the law is not stagnant, it can be amended. But I just want the viewers to know that kind of voting, which you declare then, is a voting where a win is counted. It is not the majority vote counted.
How is Kenya different from Uganda?
I hope Honorable taking notes. I was taking notes when he was saying. Okay. This is the discipline NRM. This is a discipline NRM. And that's why I don't interfere. So, if there's another contrary view, but that is it. And the Ugandans in their constituency assembly delivered and said it would be unfair to count one vote in Ibanda district, the same one vote to a populated Wakiso. Okay? Let it be counted on its own, and then it is added. Otherwise, Otieno, who has won in Ibanda with one vote, would also be counted like Akena, for example, if he won with a bigger majority as long as he has won in the district. So, but it is open. If somebody so wishes, the law is amendable. Now, I'm hearing also sentiments and voices coming from my colleagues about participation in parliamentary and not participation in a presidential. For us as NRM, it's okay. If you so wish that you know that you can't manage us at presidential, please come down.
And made it very tough.
No. Come down. Parliamentary is also democracy. You make life easier for us. You make life easier for us because, in fact, we shall look at you as being very honest. That you said, there I can't manage. I can't manage, there I come here. We would welcome it and would think that these are patriotic Ugandans who have seen they can't now manage, they have come here. But those sentiments are coming about because the challenges that they're seeing. Either the mobilization, the little mobilization that, or the inadequate mobilization they have done, the logistical requirement that they may not, the survey that they have done, the electoral survey, the time, so many things are to their disadvantage. If they so wish, please, would welcome them to leave us the space and we continue. Now, what you want, NRM winning presidential and lose parliamentary, and they are saying because NRM takes presidential as a do or die. Not true at all. What happens is the genuine election that we do is what reflects we lose parliament. We would, by the way, would want to win 100% parliamentary, even for selfish reasons. Selfish reasons that right now money was introduced, which is given to parties who have representation in parliament. It is given to electoral commission. You think we wouldn't want to take all of it? If there's anything to do or die, it is for us in the parliamentary, because we scoop the money. But we do our best, bosses, president. When we lose parliamentary, we lose because of democracy. And that is why some of us question the double standard, that NRM can rig in presidential and cannot rig in parliamentary. Why don't we rig? Wouldn't we want to do anyway? Wouldn't we want to rig for our vice president, Bokenya? Wouldn't we want to rig for the minister of NGO, Nankabira? Wouldn't we want to rig for all these people? How do we lose? And if we are these big riggers, I have always wondered, how comes the entire, from Arua to Acholi, to Lango, to Karamoja, we don't have at a polling station representatives of opposition. But we count the votes as they are. You hear in Agago, Museveni has won with 70%. We let 30% go. If we are rigging, why don't? There's no single person at the polling station.
But what about which?
So,
in a second, please. Kindly, haven't you heard of incidents where polling agents of political parties being grabbed from the polling stations and whisked away?
I have not heard.
Proceed.
But the thing is, in all these areas, I'm telling you, you are talking of one which is chased. Maybe you are, I don't know whether in Nyabushozi or where, but I'm saying where they are non-existent. I'm saying where there's non-existence from the entire West Nile, the entire Choli, the entire Lango, the entire Karamoja, nothing. But we still declare 70%. Who are these riggers who choose to leave 30%? 30% is too much. We would have pushed it to 90. So why it is not true that presidential election is a do or die. For us it is both do or die. Parliamentary, because we would even want to get the money. Because we would get the money because we would have 95% us. But what you see is not a do or die. The correct position is that we put all our effort in both presidential and parliamentary. And because of democracy, because of not rigging, we lose. In fact, even where we have lost for parliamentary, even President Museveni lost there. So we shouldn't change the narrative and falsify that it is a do or die for presidential. No, we do or die for both. But democracy takes its course. And that therefore exonerates us from rigging.
So they blame their weakness on
finally, I think I made my comment about human labor before Honorable Mabike came. Honorable, my view is, and which is a correct view, by the way, take it. It is a correct view, is that there is imbalance of labor globally. I have said, and I went to Germany, I sat in a bus. The youngest person in that bus was 65 years. So similarly, You see, now that you don't have young people in Western Europe, the same thing in Middle East, they also lack some kind of a labor. That is why the United Nations came up with a convention on migrant workers. Council, you know very well that a law comes to address a mischief. The entire world wouldn't have come with this convention if there was no instability or imbalance in labor around the world. We could be talking about the quality of labor. Did you think the convention on migrant workers was made because of Uganda only? It is because the world had seen that, ladies and gentlemen, in the world there's imbalance of labor. People are going to move. So we would put this convention to give obligation on states. The receiving state, what rights should they, how do they guarantee the rights of migrants? They host the government home. How do they guarantee the rights of people who are migrating? This is a global trend, not a Ugandan thing. If anything, Uganda even export less than Kenya.
Let me give you this question.
Completely. Check the record.
Honorable Awich, I don't want to sound like I'm giving you a leading question, and which requires a yes or no. But of course, I'll push it to you. Are you proud of the quality of labor that you export?
I'm not.
Thank you.
So it is a work in progress. We should now be saying, look, comrades, Philippines export 11 million nurses. Can we do better? Okay?
Than maids.
Can we do better? That one is a point we can agree on. So you don't expect me to say, I have answered you, haven't I?
You have, sir.
So
okay. No, okay. A breather, yeah? Okay. Now, how have you guaranteed people's freedoms and safety as enshrined in our constitution? And I was trying to give you...
That's a very difficult question for him.
No.
And I'm trying to give you a precedent of Mugumia.
Please, ask more difficult one than that. But let me first answer this. Let me first answer this. First of all, in my growing up in NRA and NRM, we like objectivity. Two is that there's a general principle that questions gives you immunity. He who asks is not at fault. Your work is to ask.
Yeah, sure.
If you wanted to say, Major Wich, you're stupid, don't say, Major Wich, you're stupid. Just say, Major Wich, are you not stupid? In which case you have just asked. Yeah. So you have no problem asking. But of course there are some questions like we have. I can tell you this. We have a common saying in Acholi where a person, a new sub-county chief had come and he was calling for a meeting. Then the man stood up and said, should I ask a question? They said, yes. That is it true that if I ask, there's no problem? He said, go ahead and ask. Then the man said, this man with a huge head, with a funny teeth, this man who is looking hopeless, is he the sub-county chief? Then they tried to arrest him. He said, but you assured me I should ask. Me, I'm just asking. So feel free to ask. And let Mabike have no fear about the answering. So the question about the safety, we have guaranteed safety. I wouldn't even bother you about the past, especially when you're juxtaposing. Did you know, Norman, that I was told in the army that there were some notorious people who would steal prisoners? I repeat, stealing prisoners. You have somebody arrested, let's say in Bombo Barracks or even in Lubiri. Then you come in the morning to check prisoners. Mr. So came and stole it. Stole it and taken it away. Stole and went and killed. Can you imagine that you have state operative where you come in the morning to check a detention center and they said, sir,
someone took them.
They even, I don't want to mention name because the names are there, that Mr. X came last night and stole the prisoners. Here, we started off from the texture of the Constitution. Article 44 is literally a Bill of Rights. Non-touchable. Things you don't touch.
Non-derogable rights.
Things you don't touch. Freedom from slavery. Not even Museveni can say Okello is my slave. Freedom from torture. In the past, courts of law could convict Okello and call the askari of the local government with what we call Ogwangweno to administer canes in court.
Haven't you watched people being tortured in this regime?
I am coming to that. You have that prohibition. Habeas corpus. Bring the body here and hear him. So we very elaborate. Now, apart from this, we have even gone ahead I mean the government, because we have the majority in parliament. We can block in a bill. We have passed a Human Rights Enforcement Act. We could block it. And remember, law is assented to by the president, and he assented. Meaning that even now, if a police comes, like you're saying, to beat or break your leg, in the past you'd go to court, and the police would say, they would raise the defense of Attorney General. Please sue Attorney General. Me, I was doing my work. Right now, you break a leg, you are personally liable. We have all institutions, courts of law, the judicial, the rest. So, we have done so much in the protection and enforcement of human rights, including human rights courts, human rights commission. However, we still have sentiments and cries coming on violations, especially lately by the state apparatus. And it is what we have to work on. As a party, we have to keep mentioning it, and especially in the forthcoming election. But by far, institutionally, legally, in practice, we have done so much compared to the past, where people come and steal prisoners. You come in the morning and say, so-and-so stole 4. As if he's stealing 4 to free, but he's stealing 4 to go and steal, just because he feels he should kill. Because
we are out of time, I will ask you to to have your closing remarks, but also with this question. In the event that government denies having any information about the whereabouts of Mugumya, for instance, where would you run to had you been a relative or a close friend to Mugumya?
I would still report to police about the disappearance.
In the same government, that because by the time the Attorney General, if sadly we haven't had an opportunity to have it run there on our screens, but they said that they looked through and every detention, renowned detention centers, and they couldn't trace him.
I think the procedure taken was to follow and see if government has arrested. That was exhausted. Government is saying they don't have. It doesn't stop you from reporting a missing person. Okay? These are not the same. These are not the same. The first one was to say that, have you arrested our person? The second one is to make a report of a missing person.
Okay. Now, the real final one now to you. Do you at some point also accept that some people in this country can disappear and never to be seen again?
No, the country is big and wide. People can disappear. For example, we never can tell, even with ours. No, let me answer. The state is big and wide, and we have even in discipline officers, okay? In discipline officers, and that is why we put law in place, because things have to be addressed institutionally. You want to say, I'm in touch with corporal so-and-so, sergeant so-and-so throughout the country. So anything can happen. But also, there are some people who go and disappear on their own and never give any trace. Even in mental health case, people have disappeared, gone out of Congo to Congo, wherever, on a mental health case. So for me to come here and say nobody can disappear, I can't say that. But only that we have to make due investigation on a case-by-case what has caused the disappearance. And of course, we would still condemn, even as a ruling party, if the state disappears, because we insist as a ruling party that the law must be followed. If somebody sees violations of the law, we still insist as a ruling party that follow the due process of the law.
Because I'm not giving you extra seconds, use like 40 or so seconds to have your closing remarks. I cross to the two gentlemen and we shall leave here. What's your closing remarks?
My closing remark is especially the key topic being the safety and the protection of people, is that by far we have tried, and by far we have also had challenges, and it is incumbent on us, not on anybody else, to make it better and make people as safe as possible. It is for that reason that we seek the mandate of the people to vote us. If you have no ability to protect the lives and safety of the people, then leave somebody else's power. So we don't run away from our responsibility. We shall try to do better.
Okay. Mr. Otieno, I will not ask you the same question because yours should be different. How best would you have expected government to guarantee people's safety and freedoms as enshrined in the Constitution? It's the same question, but it's twisted the other way around. How best? Because now, I could ask you how the other one was suitable for Honorable Awich to paint for us a picture how they have guaranteed. Now, how would you have guaranteed?
No, I don't think how would we? No, how do, these are lawyers, how do states guarantee basic rights and freedoms of the individual? But
if you were president, in this case, for instance.
Yes, and I need to make it political in the sense of Ocheno Manifesto, basically common sense things. You know, these guys went to the bush and terrorized this country for 5 years. And these guys have ruled this country for 40 years. Before these guys came to power, UPC governed this country twice. We can measure the basic rights from and it's about 12 years. Then 9 years of Idi Amin. Put all those together, even under one administration, it's not as long as 40 years. So, minus everything else that happened, there is no way that after 40 years you should face Mugumia. There's no way in which after 40 years you should face the impunity around Kizza Besigye. After 40 years, female members of parliament and stripped nearly half naked in front of the National Assembly, legislators. You know, after 40 years, you get what happened in Kawempe. Those are just basics. You know, it's actually criminal basics. You know, the other day you were here with a guest of yours who's now a presidential candidate, you know, whipped and nearly misused a young, decent Ugandan citizen. But in any case, if part of your question is about, you know, guaranteeing people's basic rights, as we said, you know, our children should not go as slaves. He's talking about slavery. Should not be going as slaves. That's what they are, you know, to the Middle East. You know, if it is, all Ugandan children should be guaranteed basic education. UPA is actually education apartheid. By the way, I wrote about this formally as education apartheid in my column, Sunday column, those days in the Monitor. It remains that, and they remain to be challenged. So in terms of provision of education, it's a basic right, because my brother here is trying to draw onto the global conventions of some of these rights. It's actually criminal. NRM would fail and would take them to Luzira. So on education, on basic health, on women's rights, you know, including the question of child and women maternal health mortality, they'd fail. Access to water, you know, access to electricity, they would fail. The criminality that is taking place in Uganda, in Karamoja, if you see what's happening, the Balalo behavior, basic rights. Here I'm talking not about the Balalo invading, but if you see that in a normal country where there is a basic rule of law, these are things that would not happen. This nonsense that this guy is cross traffic lights and take one way in which the leader of a country blocks traffic in Kampala for 2 hours for one individual, you know, with a trail of 50 vehicles to pass. Basic rights of the citizens. And you know, Ugandans sit like this.
I'll cut you short.
Ugandans sit like this. And you see Ugandans are fuming. But you see they're absolutely alone because they are helpless. It's extraordinarily, extremely sad.
Okay. That's Mr. Joseph Ocheno. I will cross to Honorable Michael Mabike. Is an aspirant for Machindia East. I have heard rumors that your biggest worry, you know, stepped down. So I don't know whether he declined contesting, and we heard that perhaps he was giving you sleepless nights. But proceed from there.
Actually, I never had sleep.
The incumbent, you weren't worried
over anybody.
Okay. Proceed.
I am in it to win now.
Proceed by answering how you think government ought to guarantee people's freedoms and rights, and then we shall leave here. You have 4 minutes.
Next time, don't put the Honorable Ambassador Awich in such a difficult position.
I don't know what he means to say this.
When you ask him about the human rights record of the national resistance movement, I think you put him in such a fix now. Sad after 40 years, you know, that we seem to have taken a full cycle. We are back where the NRM began. One, the Bill of Rights is enshrined in our constitution. Actually, the Ugandan Bill of Rights is under Article 29.
chapter 4.
Yeah, that chapter 4 that really enumerates the do's and don'ts. It also largely tells us about the human rights which are not derogable. But we have moved 40 years down the road, and all we see is lawlessness today, impunity, lack of the rule of the law. As we speak now, we have 300 young people who were arrested in 2021 for supporting a different candidate other than Mr. Museveni. They are incarcerated in prison.
Where are they?
In different prisons. They have not gone to court.
No, could you repeat that, please?
Okay, yeah, repeat.
Yeah, they are all over these. They are all over these prisons.
If you don't mind, Comrade Mubike, you're saying that there are no less than 300
less than 300
young people who were arrested illegally by this regime. 5 years later,
and when we are going into another election, they are still incarcerated. And Honorable Awich is saying...
Did I say anything else?
Now, there are many others who have disappeared, but Honorable Awich is here telling us that maybe they are mentally deranged. They could have gone to Congo. This is the most unfortunate statement I've heard from a senior NRM.
Do you deny anyone?
NRM.
He said, no, it is contextual. He said, do you deny one person?
I can give you an example.
Okay. For you, he was asking one person.
A friend of mine called Chibalama. To this day, is disappeared. Missing 18 persons. Honorable Mpuga was at the helm of that 18 missing persons, unaccounted for. Nobody knows where they are. 5 years down the road. Today, I came late because the city flooded. But the people say, you know, the city is flooding because someone is building in a channel, a drainage channel. And he is not building according to the KCC plan, because the KCC have said we have not given him authority. We have not. But he is using a presidential directive. That's how low we have sunk. That's how bad the human rights situation is. That's how bad the regime of the law is in Uganda. Actually, to say that the constitution has been relegated or abrogated is to say the least. We now have actually gun rule. Mr. Awich, Honorable Awich is a lieutenant. I don't know whether he has resigned from the military.
He retired.
He has retired major from the military. But there's something that I think I remember when I read American history. There's a man called General Washington who vanquished the colonial military, the British colonial military. And when he vanquished them, the Americans wanted him to be a king. And he said, "You guys, look here. The guns which rule, the guns which liberate do not rule." Now in Uganda, the guns that liberated us in 86 still rule. They still reign. That is why even when you go into a political contest with the witches of this world, and even if you defeat them at a debate, or even if you defeat them at a ballot, the last resort will be the gun.
Okay.
So, as far as the human rights record of the Awich's party is concerned, of course, there is a lot more to do. It is lacking. Look at the shrinking political space. Look at the shrinking human rights record. Look at the impunity that's going on around with the cronies of the regime. Someone building in a channel. Someone really disrupting nature. And I mean, things go on normally. Business go on as usual. So
you have
we cry for Uganda, and we look to that moment when we shall restore the rule of law, constitutionalism, and have sanity restored in our motherland.
Okay.
That is possible. All Ugandans need to do is to believe in better.
Okay. Our viewers, I cannot even add any word, just to thank you for viewing. and continuing to send in your comments in the event that such comments and or questions require their responses. Next time, we shall of course have them to respond to each one of the comments. I wish to call it a good night, and of course, by the way, vote wisely. Should you consider voting, because that's also your duty to vote, and of course not money, because that's part of our campaigns, to ask citizens not to vote money, but voting issues. May God bless all of us, for God and my country.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.